comes down to very often that we think other people are more deserving than we do. Those questions are really, really difficult to dig around. That's the one thing that I think kind of makes you shift your perspective and make you realize, no, I deserve to rest. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to come first. I deserve to have all of my needs met just as much as everybody else's.
Welcome to the Bold Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jen Kinnell, and this is a space where bold moves meet inspired action. Join us as we dive into stories, strategies, and mindset of those who are building their dreams, creating impactful communities, and redefining success on their terms. Whether you're looking for practical business tips, a boost of inspiration, or a community that gets your vision, you are in the right place. Get ready to elevate your journey and embrace what it means to be a bold founder. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Bold Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jen Kinnell, and today I'm inviting you into a conversation that I really believe is everything, like something that every entrepreneur needs to hear. So our guest today is Paula, and she is someone who has really changed my life before I even realized that I was burnt out and needed the support. And so I was sitting in the audience at Selena's Trailblazer Live conference, and you were on stage, and I remember just listening to you speak and just having like tears come down my eyes. And so at this point, I just know that I was really tired all the time. I was constantly pushing, constantly like trying to be super mom, trying to be super woman when it came to my business, and just like do all the things. And I didn't realize how tired and burnt out I was until you started speaking. And it just hit me. And I was like, oh, this is me. Like, I just can barely keep going at this moment. And it just really like touched me so much. And so then we ended up meeting and like having a conversation separately. And I just loved this so much that I wanted to bring it to more entrepreneurs, because I feel like entrepreneurs, we end up pushing ourselves so hard because we see this life that we want for ourselves that we're building from scratch typically, and we love what we're doing. So we push, and we don't really listen to the cues and the nudges that our body's giving us. And so I really thought this was an important thing to bring forward on the podcast, because as season 3 is all about like burnout and wellness and taking care of ourselves and creating systems, I just feel like you are the foundation of all of that, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't grow our businesses. And so I just really wanted you to come here and speak to everybody on this. And so for everyone who's listening, please meet Paula. She is a Spanish diver, hugger, and writer who walked away from her high-powered role as a CFO in a multinational company and chose rest over burnout. Today she lives a nomadic life close to nature, with time to swing in hammocks and float in the ocean. She now mentors women who are ready to step into lives that are slower, softer, and more intentional, where there's room for deep joy, clarity, and most importantly, self-connection. And what I love most about Paula's message is that she reminds us you don't need to quit your job and move away to the jungle to live your best life. You just need to be where you are with intention, presence, and grace. So welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. And it's shocking. I think I make a lot of people cry. It's shocking the amount of people that I meet. They're like, oh, when I heard you speak or when you told me this, I cried and I had tears in my eyes. And
because it deeply resonates with everybody. Like that, even if you're not like me, I did not realize it until you started speaking, and I was like, yep, she's hitting the nail on the head. Like, this is exactly where I'm feeling right now. And what I was craving, like when you were talking about slowing down and just giving yourself space, I was like, oh, that would be so nice. Okay, so I'd love for you to come and tell us a little bit about where you started from the beginning. So you were in a high pressure role as a CFO, and you decided to walk away from that. So what did those early moments of choosing rest look like for you?
yeah, I genuinely did love my job. I will say that I worked in finance and I worked with Excel sheets, and I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I genuinely enjoyed it. um, and more than anything, it was the people. I really enjoyed. My company had a big focus on personal development and developing your team, so it was fun to go to work. And I know that's a luxury, and not everyone gets that. But I didn't run away from my corporate world. I left it because I had a chapter. I felt I really needed to close that chapter. But I left it with gratitude and with joy and with memories. And I still go back to visit all my friends whenever I can. But yeah, I mean, since the beginning, it was actually the very first year, because like we often think, like in your case, it's hard to recognize when you're burnt out. And we often think that, maybe it was this project or, this timeline, or you're doing like these three things at once, and that's what pushes you over the edge. But it really burns out over many years. And for me, it was like really since I started working. And it's the pressure that I put on myself. I'm not a type A high achiever, perfectionist type of person at all. I'm quite the opposite. I'm very relaxed. I'm very chill. I was born that way. I really was. But I found that I kept on putting an insane amount of pressure on myself because I felt that I was part of a team and I needed to deliver for everyone else. And if there was a lot of pressure, then I would put it on myself instead of put it on everybody else. So I was always doing a lot more than my fair share. I remember my company, they like every 2 years you change assignments because that kind of broadens your skills for your future. And I think it was like 4 years after I had left my first assignment, they still called me to do like handovers to the new people that were coming into the team because they knew I would be there for them and they knew that I would not let them down. And they knew that, other people might say they were too busy or whatever, but I still had my files and I still had time for everybody. And so I was always doing so much, and my justification was it's for the people. But I mean, I felt tired, and I got to a point that I was taking ibuprofen every day because my back hurt so much, and I was going to the physio every week or every 2 weeks. And it's really tricky because for me, because I am a chill person, I didn't feel stressed as in anxious. I wasn't constantly like thinking about my job, and it wasn't that a case that I couldn't disconnect or anything like that. I just wore my body out physically. I really took it to the edge, and and I really couldn't recognize it until there were days that I was mid sentence with someone and I forgot what I was talking about. And that's when I realized this is really a problem. And that was one of the things. And there were a few others, like, for example, I remember seeing the seasons change through my window, and that was something that's kind of always felt wrong with me. Yeah, it was always kind of the pros and cons, and I would just reach the point where the cons were getting heavier and heavier, and I felt my body was deteriorating, my health was deteriorating, and all of the pluses that I had just didn't make sense anymore. But then the hard thing to do as well is that because I really love my job, I didn't know what to do afterwards, and I spoke to my mentors and to everyone that I could, and I read books, and really sat with what I could do with my life. And I didn't find any answers for 1 year and another year. And I was just that kind of impasse of, I really feel in my soul that I need to move on and it's the right thing to do, but I don't know what to. And then there was a corporate restructuring, and I took that as a sign, like, the universe is kind of pushing me out the door. And it was a scary thing to do, but it also felt so right just to walk out the door not having a clue what to do and give myself a break, because I did take some time off just to really decide some time off. And I went far away because resting at home is not the same. I went far away from all
Mm.
of my world. And that is what let me sit down and really be honest with myself about what I needed. But yeah, I think you just put one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and you find your way.
I think it's amazing that you said it. There's a couple things that kind of like hit for me, where you said that you were taking ibuprofen every day because you were carrying everyone else's load on your shoulders, and whether or not you like actually had more work or not, but also even your mental load. Like I think the combination of both of those,
Mhm.
like the pressure you put on yourselves is huge. And those are things that were like, oh, it's just my neck's hurting. It's fine. I'll just take ibuprofen. And then when you look back at it, you're like, oh, I was taking that like all the time. And it wasn't because my neck was sore. It was like the actual pressure that you were putting on yourself mentally and on your body. Your body was like, that was your nudge saying, hey, you need to like pay attention here. And then another thing you said that I thought was pretty amazing, well, like also hit for me, was that you were looking out your window and you could see the seasons change, right? Like that's a hard thing to think about because you want to be out there and enjoying them and enjoying fall and enjoying the summer and like having a great life. And then if you're just like missing it all, like a time is just flying by. If that's a hard thing, maybe we don't notice it when it's happening, but to look back and be like, oh, that's hard. Like I was talking previously with on one of another episode in this season with Selena about how when I was doing events, the summers would just disappear. Like I would work all summer for all these different weddings, and then the whole summer was just gone, and I missed that whole time with my kids. And so, I think it's important to kind of see those things in our lives not as something that's just life, but how can we adjust that so that we feel better, so that we're experiencing life. So I really like, I just love this conversation so much.
Hmm. It's not just about because I mean there are a lot of nudges. It's not just like the physical side of it. Yeah, I think a lot of it is, which is the reason why the seasons pass me by. It wasn't just because I worked hard, because if you're present when you're working, but then you can disconnect easily and you have energy for everything else you want to do, then that might not be so much of an issue. But for me, I would literally like I would arrive home on Friday and collapse on the couch, and I had no energy to do absolutely anything apart from just like lie there and watch television or read, or it was a chore to do absolutely anything, to go to the mountains that were close by, or to go diving, or to visit my family, or like anything just felt humongous. So I was burning all of my matches in my job, which meant that even because it is like as an entrepreneur, it's an added challenge because you don't have anyone telling you to switch off. Like for me, I was in the office 5 days a week, and sometimes I worked on the weekends, but generally I was in my house. But still, it's just I had absolutely no energy for anything else. And that's something that I also didn't recognize as a sign of, yeah, my whole summer has gone by because I haven't had the capacity for anything but resting, and not even resting, because when you're that burnt out, you can lie on your, like in bed for a whole weekend and you don't recover. It's
Yeah, you
really not
still feel
enough.
super tired.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's even worse, I think, because you're not doing anything that energizes you. You're just kind of
Yeah.
passing out. It's not, yeah.
Yeah, and I think as entrepreneurs, we want to see results, right? I think a lot of people are like this, not just entrepreneurs, but you want to see results. If I'm going to take a whole week off to just rest, I want to feel rested and rejuvenated, and so that I can go on to the next task. Like it's almost like it's your to-do list. Like you need to do this to be better, then to be able to go on to the next thing. And with burnout, it doesn't work like that. Even when you're like, oh, I feel better, it's still lingering in the background, right? Like that's
Hmm.
something I've really learned that yes, I've given myself more time and more rest, but there's still that like burnout lingering because it's not fully recovered. It's going to probably take me, I can't even put a timeline on it, at least a year, at
Yeah.
least. So, one of the things that like really hit home for me was after we met originally, we actually just popped on a Zoom call and we're chatting. One of the questions you asked me, which even now is kind of like hard to admit or pinpoint, but it was, why can you not give yourself permission to rest? And I remember you asking this, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I got to do this. I got to do this and this. And you're like, yeah, but why? But why? And you just kept asking me, but why? So we kept going down and down and down. And eventually it was like, I'm like the last on my plate. Like everyone else gets first, right? And so I think that's a hard thing, that it's a hard question to face and to continue facing all the way down to the nitty gritty. And so, what do you think is the question? Like, why do you think that question is so hard for us to face?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I mean, in your case, obviously, you wear so many hats. And I think when you've got a family, I can't even begin to imagine the burden. And yeah, just the amount of people people and like lives and tasks and everything that is on your shoulders every day. For me, it wasn't the case, but I still felt responsible for absolutely everyone around me. And I think it's just as women, we're socialized to be carers and to take responsibility for everyone else's well being. And that's the thing. So for me, like I had a team, and when if something came in kind of last minute and we had some kind of emergency in corporate, they always say things are emergency. They never are. Like we didn't, it's not a kidney transplant or anything like that. We're selling things,
Yeah.
but still, like if it was some kind of emergency and it was kind of last minute and someone would have to stay behind, I'd always start thinking, but this person has to be with her children, and this person is really tired because she's had
Yeah.
all of these projects, and like I would make justifications for everyone, and then no one took care of me, which is tough as well, because if you're always strong, people assume that you're fine. And that was one of the hardest things for me, that in times when I have been like very, very close to just having a nervous breakdown at work, at like some of the darkest times in my life, actually, talking back with colleagues who loved me and who were there for me at the time, they say they didn't notice at all, that I just seemed completely fine. It's like, but I would go home every day and cry because I just couldn't take it anymore. And they just said, you're always strong. So like, you're always fine. So like, we don't ask you how you are. And that's a really tough burden to carry all the time, that you're the one that's always fine and you're the one that's always doing everything for everyone. So yeah, it's a tough question to ask, and it's something, I mean, I asked you, and I know it's something that I think it's good to poke, because I had to answer for that for myself, and I really put myself last, and I assumed that absolutely every single person in the world was more important than me, and that's a really tough reality to face. But
Yeah.
it's something that we
I
have to face in the end.
It is something we have to face, and I think the answer is not something we wanna hear either, right? Like, why don't you put yourself first? That's sounds so ridiculous that you don't, but you like, I just never ever did. And even now, like, I still have a hard time admitting, like, I never put myself first because maybe I wasn't I just wasn't on top of my radar. Like, I was the lowest man on the radar, right? So but why? Like, why would you put yourself the lowest? If your cup is empty, you can't even help anyone as it is. So why would you put yourself the lowest? But it is so easy to do that.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
it does come down to what you think you deserve in the end, because we all know the theory of, if you know, if you're in a plane, you have to put like your own oxygen mask on before you put on someone else. Like, we've all heard that. But when it comes down to it and you have to make choices, and especially when it's choices of putting yourself ahead of other people maybe that have eyes, and they're looking at you, and it's a really tough thing to do. But it comes down to very often that we think other people are more deserving than we do. And those questions are really, really difficult to dig around. But I think that's the one thing that I think kind of makes you shift your perspective and make you realize, no, I deserve to rest. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to come first. I deserve to have all of my needs met just as much as everybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Okay. So I want to talk about the idea of success. So you've said something that I think everybody really needs to hear, which is when we define success for ourselves, not for others, we can live ambitious, impactful lives without sacrificing ourselves. Can you expand on that for us?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because I think we spend most of our lives probably living for other people, or living by what we're told success is. And it's really difficult because, in the end, from the day you're born, society is imprinting on you through just everyone that you watch around you, and the people that are in your home and your carers, but also like television and society, and then like all your peer groups and the people you go to school with. And we're told that success looks a certain way. For me, when I was growing up, it was still pretty much getting married and having children. And you had to have a career, but then your priority would be getting married and having children. And as I started moving into the workplace, that shifted a little bit. And then, okay, I'm a career woman, and now my success is going as high as I can. And it's really just about climbing the corporate ladder. And the higher you climb and the faster you climb and the more kind of tough you are, the more successful you are. And it really didn't feel right, because I looked around me, and some of the people that I thought were successful by that measure, they got there by like stabbing other people in the back. I remember like there are people in our team who like didn't know, like we weren't like a big team, but there were people who didn't know the name of like most of the people that they worked with, because they didn't care. They knew the name of all of the bosses, but they didn't know the name of everyone else who worked around them. And that really kind of stuck with me. Like, I don't know if you can call yourself successful when you don't have I mean, for me, like when I go back to Spain, when I go to my office, I have a very loud laugh and I laugh a lot. And when I walk past my office and I'm chatting to someone and I'm laughing, every single time there are people who come outside of the building because they hear me and they recognize my laugh and they just want to come and hug me. And that for me is success. I have
Mhm.
people that I have worked with that respect me for what I have done, but that also respect me as a human being. And that's not always measured in like the corporate scale of success. But it's tricky because then I quit all of that behind. I went traveling for a little bit. I wasn't sure, like, because I left my flat, I sold my possessions. Like, I wanted to have nothing that tied me back. But I did think that the most likely thing was that I would just go traveling a bit and then come back and find a similar job and have to buy all my furniture again and stuff like that. But I wanted to have freedom, and I wanted to have the option to not have anything holding me back. So when I really started traveling and I started like leaving and speaking to people who were not in the corporate world, I did my instructor course for fun, and then my scuba instructor course. And then the people that I worked with, they lived in the ocean. They had never opened an Excel sheet in their life, and they had no clue about like promotions and the corporate pressure and boardrooms and things like that. So yeah, you start meeting different people and you start opening your mind a little bit, and you think like there are a lot of different types of success out there. I met a lot of
Yeah.
marine biologists who spend their whole life in the ocean, like taking measurements and stuff, and who have a really tough life because every single year they're fighting for grants and for government subsidies so they can fund their research. And it's like, I don't know, it's what I was always told was successful really was a lie. but it's really hard because now I live a really slow life. And then the people that I'm surrounded with, like, yoga teachers and scuba instructors and freedivers and things like that, their idea of success is also doesn't feel right for me because I do have ambition. And that's where the ambition part kind of comes in. It's, you really have to sit down and think what it is for you. And for me, it is having a really restful life, but also having a life where you can have impact. And that's why I loved, for example, going to the conference and meeting so many women who are doing like really kick ass things and like dominating the world. And yeah, it's a, you really have to sit down and have that conversation for yourself. And you really have to step out of your comfort zone, I think, and of everything that you know, to at meeting new people and expanding your mind to be able to answer, I think, what success might look like for you.
Yeah. And I really like this because at any stage in our life, our idea of success can shift. And it's pretty amazing when you are around other women or other people and other people like other parts of the world, you get to see what success means for other people and how can that translate into what you want? Like maybe it's not the career success in terms of like climbing the corporate ladder. Maybe it's not also the yoga life and very what the calm and relaxed and whatever that like means to you, but maybe you can find a nice place in the middle, right? And
Mm.
that's but once you see those options, that kind of gets your mind thinking, okay, this is what I want. This isn't what I'm told is successful. This isn't like material things that make me successful. Success is what you personally find like your peace with and your happiness with and creating the life that you want.
And I think it reaches a point as well where you have to realize to what extent you are worried about what other people will think about you. And that's a really tough one as well because humans are social creatures and we're built to be in community. But for me, like I found that really like I genuinely wanted to climb the ladder and like get, promotions. And I really wanted promotions because I wanted to change, the system from within. And that's a different
Yeah.
story. And when I had a really good mentor who told me, like, are you building your life around just fighting the system, or are you really building your life around what makes you genuinely happy? And that was something that I also had to kind of think about. But yeah, but I it really wasn't me. And yeah, I don't know, like for me it's just about people. It always has been, and that can take like lots of different aspects and have lots of different jobs, but it's being with people that you respect that are good, having work that you think is meaningful, and having the space and time to really look after yourself. If you don't have that, then I don't know, like I had to stop caring about what the people around me were thinking because there was that fear of when I quit my job as well, like will people think that I'm flaking out or that I'm weak or that I'm not smart enough to like take it to the next
Yeah.
level. Oh, I really couldn't care in the slightest, but at the time that was a really hard one.
It is a hard one because even like so
Mm.
when I had the Bold Founders community, like I love that community, but I needed to make time and make space and to remove some stress and pressures. And when I let that go, like there was a lot of thought on the process of what are these people in the community gonna think? Like that I'm just dropping them or that like it just didn't work and and that's it, it's done. Like or like what I genuinely loved this community, loved seeing them grow, loved all the things that came along with it. And there is that pressure that you don't want to let people down. But in the process, you're letting yourself down by not
Hmm.
choosing to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and it's also a question of being authentic because very often where you have to let someone go, very often you reach a point where you're not being true to your message.
Yeah.
So I was always telling everyone that people come first and that it's the most important thing. But then I wasn't living for myself. I was living for external accolades or whatever it was. And yeah, I think when you're an entrepreneur, it's also difficult because very often you will tell people. I mean, I don't think you're not going to tell people in your community to go all out and like step over everyone and like, don't, it's going to be, you probably are telling people to put themselves first and to take care of themselves and to make sure that they have a balanced life. But then the question is, are you living a balanced life?
Well, it's easy to say, not as easy to do. And it's hard.
And it does.
There's no such thing as balance, really. So it's not like you're like, I'm living the perfectly balanced life. No, there's always a teeter totter on that one.
I think for me, like I always talked about balance, and it's a big one in the corporate world about like work-life balance, and it doesn't feel like that word doesn't feel right anymore. I think it's a question of priorities, and that shifts. It's always going to change. It's going to change year in your life, and it's something that you have to ask yourself. But right now, today, what are my priorities, and am I being true to them? That's a question I think we have to ask ourselves like over and over again. Like every year, you need to sit down and evaluate that. And sometimes you're going to be a little bit more overwhelmed and a little bit more stressed, and other times you're going to be more relaxed. Yeah, balance is not. I think it can be a way to a sneaky way of getting you to do more and more and putting more things on your
Mm.
plate in the name of balance. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay, so on that topic of balance, I like the idea that what you've said before is rest is not a reward at the end of your to-do list. And so I think that's really impactful because I don't know how many times I've said it, or many entrepreneurs or anyone has ever said this, like, okay, on Friday, if as long as I can get to Friday, then I can relax. Okay, if I can get just to this vacation, like once I'm on vacation, then I can relax. Like your rest is not something that comes when you get everything done. It needs to be integrated. And so I'd love to hear what you think and like explain this more to us.
Yeah. Don't you feel that because I feel like my whole adult life has just been like like just a never ending kind of justification of when this finishes, then I can rest.
Yeah.
It's always, yeah. And it never comes because there's always something new and you're always pushing it aside. I'm actually reading a book called Why We Sleep,
Yeah.
which someone from Trailblazer recommended, and it really is about because I'm a night owl, and I think a lot of people as well struggle with what do they call it now? Nighttime revenge procrastination, where I think it's that, but it's when you feel you haven't got enough during the day, so you stay up a little bit later just to catch up on things. And very often people will do that with when they feel they haven't like taken care of themselves. So they'll stay up later to do whatever it is, or they haven't had time for themselves. So you'll stay up later to watch the TV because that's a
Yeah.
reward, or and yeah, in the end, you're just burning your. It's another way of burning yourself out. And this book is really fascinating, and it talks about the physical effects of not getting enough sleep, like consistently not getting like 8 hours, and it's kind of
Yeah.
scary. But yeah, I think that's how we live. I think many of us, we live our lives just, and it's tricky because we do like that's where the ambition part comes in. We want to rest, but we also have ambition, and there's things that we want to do. So it's not always a negative sort of pressure that's kind of overwhelming and that's making us feel bad about ourselves. Very often it's excitement. You have a lot of really cool projects and you really want to work on this, and it's, but yeah, we start stealing our sleep and we start pushing our holidays, or even when it comes to holidays, I don't know if you're like a lot of people to come and they tell me what they need to do to relax, and they make a list of it, and then when they're on holiday they have to check everything off the list. It's like, so today I've read, and today I've gone into the ocean, and today I've done this, and it's, but again, it comes down to our, when we feel that our self-worth comes from looking after other people, it's really hard to step back and
Yeah.
and feel that we deserve to rest. So changing that is changing like all of the societal conditioning that we have from generations ago, not even from our lifetime.
Okay, so for anyone who is in the process of like taking care of themselves, realizing that they're in burnout and are being like or overworking themselves, what are some small things that they can do to help themselves feel better and slowly come back to themselves?
I would have always told people that it's about like a lot of self-care activities. Meditation really helps. When you were talking about burnout and the effects that, that it has on your body, like that it wears you out over time and how long it takes you to recover, that's because your nervous system is burnt out. So meditation, like breath work, all of these things, obviously sleep, napping, all of that, that is really going to soothe your nervous system. But I think more than all of these tools, which are great tools, for me, like what I've discovered in the past few years, it really comes down to boundaries. I think that's the
Hmm.
one thing that changes everything, setting boundaries.
I agree.
hmm Because you can rest and you can meditate and you can do all of that. But then if you haven't carved out like a space and time that is for you and for what is important to you, everything else is just going to start kind of piling up on top again. So yeah, I think boundaries would be the biggest one. And yeah, I think swimming in the ocean is always great. I'm a big lover
Oh,
of.
anything with the ocean always works for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to finish this off. I'd love to ask you what are some final words that you would like to leave with our audience?
I think I always say this, and then some people find it a bit dark, and I don't think it is. For me, it's the opposite. But we're gonna we're on this planet a lot shorter than we think. Like we're not gonna be here eternally, and sometimes we live as if we are. And for me, that doesn't feel. sad. It's quite the opposite. It's every day you wake up, you need to be grateful. Like there's going to be one day when you don't. And that sounds really terrible, but if you wake up in the morning and you're safe and you're healthy and you're happy and your loved ones are doing good, then that's already a really pretty incredible day. Yeah, just being grateful that we do have a very precious life and we've only got a limited amount of time and energy and love and focus in our life. So be really, really mindful of what it truly is that you want to devote that to. And that's where the boundaries come in as well. It's not, you can't do everything because there is not time and there is not, and you don't have the energy for it. So, yeah, what is it that you want to like really devote this like precious life or this day to? Because it will go by quicker than we think.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm really so happy that you were able to come on the podcast and share this message because I think that it's so overlooked. It's swept under the rug. And if we're feeling like we were burnt out, we really do need to acknowledge it and say, okay, how can we make this better? Like, what can we do for ourselves to take care of ourselves so that we start to feel better? Or even just acknowledging that it's happening or being aware, like, maybe it's not happening and that's because you are self-aware from the beginning. So I just love this conversation and I think so many people are going to be impacted by listening to it. So thank you so much.
But I will just say that I also think that I think the vast majority of people are struggling a lot more than we think
Mhm.
with rest and with whatever is going on with their life. And we don't talk about it. So it's that's something that I find is really hard to take as well. How many people feel alone or feel that they are not enough because everyone else is doing so well, why can't I? And it's really not true. We're all struggling. So I think we need to celebrate when we're doing well and we're happy and we're energized, but also acknowledge when we're struggling and support each other because that's another thing. Community in a village is really what something that is going to lift you up and make your life that much easier so that you can take a break and you don't have to do it all by yourself.
Oh, I love that so much. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. That was the best way to end this too. So I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your beautiful wisdom. Where can everybody find you?
My Instagram is where I post most of my stuff. There's a lot of fish things and, I talk a lot about sharks. So don't mind that. But yeah, I think that's where I share most of my thoughts and things like that. I have a website as well.
Okay. We'll post it all in the show notes too. But
Hmm.
all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. It was so nice to see you always.
I know. I loved seeing you. Wasn't that conversation absolutely incredible? I love Paula so much, and she has really opened my eyes into what's possible, reflecting on my own life, reflecting on my values, and like how I'm not slowing down and now intentionally starting to slow down and take more time for me. And so I just wanted to reflect on the episode and kind of go through a couple key takeaways that I really hope that you like loved in terms of the whole episode, but these ones also. So the main one I think I looked at was, what does success look like to you? I think that a lot of time we do look at external things, like you're supposed to climb the corporate ladder and you're supposed to go up as high as you can, and that's what success looks like. If you've got all like that, you got the fancy house and the fancy car and you're traveling a whole bunch. Like, what does success look like in terms of what you value and what you want? And how are we achieving what we want versus what maybe society has taught us is success? So I just love the thought of like looking back on that, because my value of success has really shifted into, how can I create more freedom in my life? How can I have more chances to travel, to enjoy the things that I love, to be with my family more, and not sacrifice profit and income for that? And so I have really loved playing with that now and seeing how I can do that in a way that nourishes me and makes me feel healthier, less burnt out, less tired, more energized. So I think that was probably one of my favorite takeaways, because it really is, it's a thing that we deal with on a regular basis, especially as entrepreneurs. I also love the topic of, okay, I will rest when my to-do list is done. I'm beyond guilty of this, and I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, they push so hard. They're like, I'm going on vacation, so I'll rest when I'm on vacation. Or I have all this to get done this week. It's a busy week. Like, this is actually a busy week for me. And I've already been like, okay, the weekend comes and I can go relax. I can go relax at the lake and just enjoy. But I have to get through this week. Like, why do we not start integrating little moments of rest throughout our week so it doesn't feel so much like we're pushing all the time? and we are like constantly on the go and on our to-do list. So I just love this idea of thinking about how we have a to-do list and I'll rest after, because after always is like, well, this came up and I should do this, and it's so exciting. So I just want you to really think about, when are you integrating rest on a regular basis so it doesn't feel like it's always last. I also really love the idea of just like taking baby steps. So when you're burnt out, the last thing you want is another thing to do. Or for me, like I have a very hard time with just like chilling, just sitting. And so that feels very overwhelming. Like, how am I even going to do that? So instead, how can we take baby steps? So like I said before, maybe it's just like implementing little moments of rest in. Maybe it's removing a couple things from your to-do list. Maybe it's adding in some boundaries. So how can we create small steps that are going to bring us more rest, peace, and calm into our lives? And then finally, we just need to start making ourselves a priority. It's hard when we have a business and we have clients that we need to make sure that we're like delivering our services and products for. It's our family. We want to make sure that our family is being set up, that they're taken care of, they're picked up, they're dropped off, they're taken to their sports, that we are heavily invested in our family and what they're doing. And it's so easy for us to be like, I'll rest later. We've got too much on our plate today. I won't sleep in because we need to get this done in the morning. Like, we so easily put ourselves last. And it's just like Paula said, if you're on an airplane and the things fall down in front of you, you were supposed to do it for yourself first, because if we don't take care of ourselves first, how can you pour into everyone else around you? You just can't. It's something that we need to maybe mindset shift, or we need to start making ourselves a priority, whatever it is, starting to think about how we can take care of ourselves a little bit more. So I really hope you love this episode. I just really love this season of the Bold Entrepreneur podcast, because being bold is not always about going and going and going. It is about taking care of ourselves. And so I do want to invite you to the Be Bold conference, because this is a place where not only are we going to talk about our goals and our dreams and what we're going after, but we're also going to talk about how we can take care of ourselves, how we can bring more joy into our lives. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. We cannot become more successful and bigger and better in our businesses if we are not taking care of us internally. And so I just want to invite you guys to come, grab your ticket. The conference is October 7th at the Whitewood Barn. It is an incredible day with the top-notch, amazing speakers who you will just like fall in love with the way I have. And surround yourself with incredible women in business and this incredible magical space that we are going to be hosting the event in. So make sure to get your tickets, because this is an event you do not want to miss, and you will absolutely love it, and your business will thrive from it. So I cannot wait to see you there.